Hvaða áhrif höfðu fjölmiðlar á efnahagskreppuna? Hvers vegna sögðu þeir fólki ekki hvað væri að gerast áður en hún skall á? Etienne White, framkvæmdastjóri alþjóðasamtaka blaðamanna, staddur hér á landi til að ræða ábyrgð blaðamanna og þessa stundina að messa yfir áhugasömum á kornhlöðu loftinu í Bankastræti. En hann kom fyrst við hér í Efstaleitinu og ræddi við hana Þóru Arnarsdóttur.
Welcome, Mr. White. Now, just to start with maybe the main question, when the economic crisis hit full force, people asked where was the media, why didn't they tell us what was happening, what was going to happen. So what is your view on the responsibility of the media relating to this big economic crisis?
I think people asked the right question. You know, why didn't media tell us what was going on? Why didn't media ask searching questions of the financial establishment? Why didn't they ask questions of government? Why didn't they sort of examine carefully what was happening? Absolutely right. I think those questions are valid. The problem is that media, like other public institutions, like other institutions of democracy here in Iceland, were actually, for some reason, and we can clearly see the catastrophic effect of it, they were complacent. They were transfixed. They were convinced that there wasn't a problem. So we had a political establishment which was guilty of complacency. We had a financial establishment which was guilty of complacency and more, potentially almost dishonest activity. And we had a media system which failed to do its job. And I think actually people would recognise that all of these institutions of democracy failed. And there's no doubt at all that I think it's not just the situation for media in dealing with the crisis here in Iceland. Right across Europe and right across the world, the same questions were asked. Why didn't media ask the questions? Why didn't they scrutinise properly what was going on? And I think it's absolutely right. I think, unfortunately, media, like the mainstream of politics, like the mainstream of the business community, were part of the problem. There wasn't enough attention being paid to what were the consequences of decisions that were being taken. So everyone went along with a sort of business fantasy that money could be made almost without any risk and without commitment. And the consequences of that have been disastrous for millions of people around the world, not just here in Iceland. So I think a hard lesson has been learned within media and within democratic institutions that when you're dealing with economic affairs, when you're dealing with financial affairs, for goodness sake, understand what's happening, analyse the consequences of what you're doing, and make sure you have a system of scrutiny in place. Media should play that role of scrutiny in general terms. They're not regulators, they're not financial regulators, but they should be able to ask questions of the people who are in charge. That didn't happen, and I think people were right and are right to demand that in the future media do their job better than they did it in the past.
But complacency is one thing, but what about if we take it a step further and ask about, because you say they played along, can we go as far as saying that firms were actually able to buy journalists or buy opinions?
Look, I think that this is I don't think we should be reckless with our criticism. It's very easy to start accusing people of dishonesty and malpractice and corruption and so on. We have to be very careful when we throw around these terms. Look, I think there was a high degree of incompetence. I think also, there's no doubt at all, that some in the media managements were actually, had an interest in maintaining this system. I know that in many areas of journalism, journalists were concerned. Journalists were asking questions, but they were suppressed. These questions weren't being answered properly. And one of the reasons for that was that people would say to them, oh, you can't do that, because if you ask that sort of question, that will cause uncertainty in the markets. It will cause scaremongering. It'll be bad for the economy. It will let people down. So journalists were caught. If they asked questions, they were causing problems. So many of them kept quiet. And I think that was a major problem. In some of the big financial newspapers, the Financial Times and others, some journalists did ask questions, but they didn't hit the front pages. These questions were being asked and caution was being entered into, but in other sections of the papers. So the problem is that in some sections of media around the world, there was concern about what was going on, but this was never given the proper emphasis that it should have been. Why was that? First of all, there's no doubt at all because media have suffered as a result of their close association with the business community. There's no doubt at all, in my view, that much of the world's media was itself interested in maintaining the growth and the notions that were being put in that you could make money for nothing. So unfortunately, media were, in terms of their organisation, part of the problem. The second thing that actually contributed to the media's decline in this area, or lack of professionalism, was that public relations people working on behalf of banks, working on behalf of financial services, were exerting a great deal of influence on the stories that media were following. So unfortunately, you had this communication strategy of the business community itself with a public relations strategy, which meant that media were being fed information all the time, which was very much self-interested information. So there wasn't proper journalistic analysis of what was going on. So in a whole number of areas, media allowed themselves to be influenced by public relations people and vested interests, and they failed to protect their professional independence, and they paid the consequences, they paid the price for that.
But isn't it also related to what people want to hear? You say there were stories,
no, of course.
and all that people maybe chose not to take notice of the bad news because everything seemed to be great.
Absolutely. I mean, the problem about it is that there was a fantasy which was created and a story being told, and in the end it turned out to be a fairy story, that you could make money for nothing. And unfortunately, people's instincts often are, you know, if you can make a quick buck, if you can make a sort of an easy profit, if there's a certainty on a horse you can bet on, people will take the risk. And they don't want to hear perhaps the bad news that actually sort of says, well, that can't be done. Well, people were found out. And that is tragic. And particularly it's tragic for people who themselves were not actively engaged in it. If investors invest their money, they know what they're doing. But people who are just members of pension funds, people who were just sort of had put their savings into banks in good faith, believing that banks were good institutions, these were innocent victims. These were people who weren't guilty of naive investment and so on. They were just the people who, in the end, were just affected by this sort of catastrophe as it unfolded. And that's the real tragedy. And I think that's one of the reasons why, when we talk about the future role of media and the role that media can play, it's very clear that they've got to do two things. First of all, they've got to be very much more professional in establishing distance between the work that journalists do and work that media do and business interests.
These are the lessons to be learned.
This is a lesson to be learned. And so have real distance. Ask the questions. Don't shy from taking the risks of confronting people who appear to be certain, but actually, if you've got a serious question to ask, make sure that it's asked and make sure that there's an answer given. And secondly, and I think this is really very, very important, is that media have to be more conscious of their responsibility to their readers and their viewers and their listeners, who are the innocent victims in this process. That this isn't an argument just between the haves, the people who have power, that involved in this are citizens, are people who have got their lives at stake, their livelihoods are involved in it and so on. And I think one of the strong lessons that should come out of this whole process, this terrible process, is that media should be the voice box of society as a whole. They should have a social role, which is to protect people's interests. And I think that if media can learn that, if journalists can learn that, then, you know, then this terrible process will at least have produced a revival of a commitment to decency and humanity in journalism. That's one of the big issues, really, that I'm here in Iceland to talk about with journalists, which is why across Europe we have a new movement in journalism which is trying to restore values, trying to restore honesty and ethics in the work that we do. And I think it's really important that we try to do that at a time of public anxiety. And there is public anxiety about the economic future, about people's jobs. Parents are worried about their children. People are worried about the future. And in this time of public anxiety, they need to have access to good information, which is reliable and which explains the world around them, exactly what's going on, so that people can read analysis, commentary and context that explains the events that are taking place around them. So I think media must make sure that in future people, not just here in Iceland, but actually everywhere, understand what the consequences are of economic policy and understand what the consequences are of political decisions that are taken or economic decisions that are taken that actually will have an impact on their lives. So good journalism is the solution here, and that's why the ethical journalism campaign that we've launched all across Europe, and I've been talking about with the Council of Europe ministers here, is extremely important for defining the future role that journalism will play, not just in democracy across Europe, but also in democracy in Iceland.
Thank you very much for being with us, Mr. White.
Thank you very much.